Good?
Yep.
Okay, hi everybody.
Hi.
I'm Danny. I'm an alcoholic, but
Danny.
I'm going to give you my disclaimer. I do not speak for Alcoholics Anonymous, the Western Club, or anything like that. This is just my own experience that I'm sharing with you. This is a workshop that I put together about 25 years ago, and I've done it all over the world, so and all over the United States. So this is my opinion on stuff. Take what you want from it, leave what you don't want. I don't know if you can see the board. We are recording this, so if we're covering something today and you didn't catch it, you can go to YouTube channel BB Study 2025, and by tomorrow this will be up there on two parts, part one and part two. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about part one of this workshop is how we've always dealt with relationships. Part two is the difference between men and women, which is very important to understand. And part three is how to have a healthy relationship. Okay? So, like I said, I'm not speaking for Alcoholics Anonymous or the Western Club. And if anybody has a question while we're doing this, just raise your hand and I'll try to get to you and we'll cover that. In the meantime, part one, how we always dealt with relationships. So whether we want to or not, people like us generate a great deal of love. Unfortunately, we lack the ability to accept and express love. When we can't express love, it builds up and it comes out sideways in negative emotions. Anger, resentment, frustration, violence, jealousy. And people like us, we've killed friendships and relationships with the same nonchalance that we had us stepping on an ant. Okay? That's why you've heard people say we don't take lovers, we take hostages, right? You've heard that before. Our relationships have always been based on control. Either we dominate somebody that we're in a relationship with, or we depend on them too much. Either way, that's total control. Okay? Years ago, I walked into, probably 30 years ago or more, I walked into a speaker meeting, not realizing it was an Al-Anon meeting. And when I realized it was an Al-Anon meeting, I didn't want to get up and walk out. I felt, embarrassed to get up and walk out. And I'm going to tell you, it's probably more than 30 years ago. I was probably just a couple of years sober, so it was probably like 32 years ago. And this lady shared something that I still remember today. She said, I don't have to change. You don't have to change for me to be okay. And I thought, wow, that's a pretty deep statement. You don't have to change for me to be okay. Okay. So what's some of the mistakes we had? We mistake lust for love. We mistake sex for love. Sex is not love. For most of us, sex, whether it's in your bed or in your head, is a total drug.
Yeah.
Sex is a drug for people like us. And we'll talk more about this later. But sex was not made for the selfish. Sex was made for the loving. Sex wasn't meant for the uncaring. Sex was meant for the caring. So when you abuse it and don't take care of it, you don't use it right, you're going to get less than what you deserve out of it. You're going to get cheated on, disrespected, and less than what you deserve. So, now, people like us, we mix up two words that all the time. That we mix up the word intimacy and intensity. And let me tell you what they mean. Intimacy is I allow you to see into me. That's what intimacy is. I allow you to see into me. Intensity is just drama, excitement, anxiety. And people like us kind of like that stuff, don't we? I remember when I was real early in sobriety, my sponsor told me one time, because I'll talk more about that later, but he told me one time that I have, my problem is that options eliminate commitment. And I didn't know what he meant by that. Options eliminate, I can't make a commitment because I got in my head options, right? And we're going to talk all about this later. But so we go from one relationship to another. so we don't have to feel the pain. The pain of what we did in the last relationship and how we sabotaged it. We're excitement junkies, people like us. And a new relationship is exciting. So we had to find someone new. We need the excitement of the new relationship to take away the pain of the old one. The need of the excitement takes the place of the need not to feel the pain. So in my search for happiness, or what I perceive to be happiness, what I perceive to make me happy, is I can't be satisfied. Because when the excitement is gone, I hone in on the one little thing. I could be with someone that has 100 great qualities and just one bad quality. Maybe like she does this with her teeth. And after the excitement is gone, and then she does that, I hone right in on that. That shit is so annoying. I can't deal with that no more. Right? And I'm gone. When I got sober, my sponsor asked me, what did I want in recovery? And I said, well, I want, I want to have a good life. I want to find a woman and settle down and, find the perfect woman. So he says, do me a favor, would you write down what the perfect woman is to you? So I wrote it down, and the next time we got together, he said, did you write that? I said, sure. He says, well, let me hear what your list was. And on this list I had, she's beautiful, funny, smart, good sense of humor, could cook, this, I went through this whole list of things, and he said, wow, that's quite a woman. He said, on a scale of 1 to 10, what is that woman? I said, she's a 10. And he says, well, all of these qualities, which ones do you have? And I talked a little bit about it. He said, on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you? I said, I'm about a 7. And we discussed it for a little while, and I finally agreed that I was about a 3. And he told me something that has such meaning in my life, even to today. He said, Danny, you have to understand something. 3s do not attract 10s. Every once in a while, a 3 can fool a 10, but he can't keep her. He says, so what are you going to do? So, well, I'm going to pray, that God put this perfect woman in my life. And he said, Danny, God's not a pimp. It's not God's job to put a woman in your life. It's your job to make yourself closest to the 10 as you can be. Therefore, attracting a like-minded person. And so we're going to talk more about this in a little bit, but I want to talk about how we avoided the pains of life before sobriety. We used, right? We used alcohol, we used drugs, we used people. And the titillation of a new romance is my fix. And I found out, for me, it turned out that I wasn't so much in love with the person as I was more in love with the fact of being in love. The question then is, how well do you know the other person? If it were the person we actually love, then why do we insist on trying to change who they are and how they act? Years ago, I think I had just moved to Oklahoma, and my daughter's in New York. They were telling me that there's a new play on Broadway and they wanted to go. So I said, all right, we'll get tickets. So I flew back to New York and we got tickets and we went to see the show. The name of the show, you're going to like this. You can't make this up. The name of the show was, I Love You, You're Perfect, Now Change. I even bought the t-shirt. And it was a funny show, and it had all little skits about how we see the other person being perfect, but we want to insist on changing them and everything. So, I think it was Scott Peck, if you're familiar with him. He wrote. I think he wrote, what is it?
The Road Less
Women
Traveled.
from Venus, Men from Mars, or something?
The Road Less Traveled.
The Road Less Traveled, yes. But he said in one of his writings, he said, if we seek to be loved, if we expect to be loved, this cannot be accomplished. We will be dependent and grasping, not genuinely loving. Think about that one for a minute. People like us, we drag people in our life before it's time for them to come, or we keep people in our life when it's really time to let them go. And we're going to talk more about that later because people like us do not know how to get out of a relationship. But healthy people do. You've heard people say, if you line up 10 people on a wall, I'll pick the sickest one all the time, every time, right? And I always wonder, why do we say that? You know, well, for me, I found it's not so much that a healthy person wouldn't live with me, but it's more so that I wouldn't live with a healthy person. And since we're in an AA place with a bunch of people in recovery, I want to spend a minute and talk about the 13th step. I had an experience of that when I was about 5 years sober. And if you're new and there's a guy hitting on you or vice versa, it happens both ways, but mostly it's with a guy hitting on a newcomer woman. If a guy's hitting on you and you're new, that person is sick. In that area in their life, they're sick. Run away from them if you can. And if you're sponsoring guys that you know are doing that, you need to put a stop to that. We need to make sure that these rooms is a healthy, safe place for women. Not to let them think like they're still on the streets and it's not safe for them. And instead of, so we need to intervene with that. My experience with that, I had about 5 years sober, and I was talking to this lady who had a couple of months sober. And I was sponsoring a bunch of guys, and I was always against this stuff, you know. I have, in my life, 7 women. I have 3 daughters and 4 granddaughters, so, and they're all grown, so I'm kind of protective towards women naturally. And I didn't have any bad intentions with this. See, I thought my intentions were good, but it was wrong. And what I found out is this. Now, at 5 years sober, I was spiritually right here, you know, and this lady that had a couple of months sober, you know, obviously it's not about anything negative about her, but spiritually she was about here. That's where we are when we get here, right? And what I found out is that it is impossible for somebody spiritually here to leap up to be spiritually here. But it is not impossible, and it's very easy for somebody that's spiritually here to find themselves spiritually here quickly. And that's what happened to me. I didn't drink, I didn't use, but I was spiritually sinking. And I realized what was going on. And that was 34 years sober, so that was 29 years ago. And luckily I haven't done that anymore. You know? So I had a bad experience from that, but I see that happening still a lot of times, and we need to intervene there in these rooms. We need to let people know. So, do you agree that somebody that comes into recovery, no matter what their background is, or if they come into recovery, that they're spiritually sick, spiritually bankrupt, right? I mean, nobody wakes up in the morning and goes, my life is great, I think I'll join AA. That's not what happens. So, we come into these rooms spiritually sick, okay? So, when you see 2 newcomers getting into a relationship, it's like pouring Miracle Growth on your character defects. And I have come up with a formula that I use to explain this. Oh, by the way, if you didn't read this, I put on here, relationships are only as alive as the people engaging in them. Love is such an unselfish thing, which we are too selfish to conquer. And relationships, the emotionally starved seeking the emotionally empty. Okay. So, here's my formula that I use. So if we agree that you're sick when you get here, right? Now here's what happens. When you put 2 people together, sick plus sick equals sicker. Whether it's a word or not, I'm not sure. But. And then sick. Sickier, yeah. Sick plus healthy equals sick. If one person in the relationship is sick, the relationship is sick. You cannot have a healthy relationship when one person is sick. So here's the kicker to this: is healthy plus healthy equals a chance. It doesn't mean you're going to have a good, loving, healthy relationship because two people are healthy. All it means is you have a chance. You have a chance of having a healthy relationship. Okay. So, because, I don't know if you agree with that little formula, but it's very true. Because how can I make a love withdrawal when my partner is emotionally bankrupt? My thinking is warped. Right? When I get here, my thinking is warped, but all of a sudden, I convince myself that my thinking is correct when it comes to a relationship. Same thoughts I had about alcohol and drugs before I got here. For a long time. The thought is this: it's the same insanity. This time, it'll be different. Big lie. So let's talk for a minute about sexual addiction, because we have that is kind of mixed up and incorrect a lot. Sexual addiction is very misunderstood. I'm not a sex addict because I have problems with sex. I'm a sex addict because I use sex to devoid my feelings. If you use a partner in a relationship to complete you, that's sexual addiction. When I did my fourth step in recovery, I found out that I was not so oversexed. I was much more undersecure. So you better know who you are going into a relationship, because if you don't, you'll be coming out of it sometime later, and by the time you wake up 5 months or 5 years later, you're going to realize this ain't what you wanted. You've wasted your time being someone you're not to be with someone you don't want to be with. So we come into recovery looking for a meaningful overnight relationship. And the only way we know how to deal with a relationship is the old way. Like you women will say, where is he? He should have been back by now. He ain't going to do that shit to me and get away with it. I'll show him. Right? That's kind of how we always dealt with relationships. Joe, would you mind getting me some coffee, please? Thank you. Just black. And I always thought that love meant I need you. I can't live without you. I have to have you. Love is nothing tangible. You can't give it, get it, find it. If you're lucky, you get to experience love. And people like us, we're like newborns running around the rooms with our umbilical cord hanging out, just trying to find somebody to attach it to so we can suck and draw. Now that sounds terrible, doesn't it? But it's very true. We want to suck them dry. We want to drain them, and all the while we call it love. Because if I love you, then surely you must love me back equally or more. How I show you love is the way you need to show me love. That's not reality. That is not love. How about this one where we tell people in the rooms to not be in a relationship in their first year in recovery? There's some, thank you, Joe. There's some wise thinking behind that, but I want to tell you, I have never I've sponsored tons of people. I have never told anybody I sponsor to not get in a relationship in the first year. You know why? They're not going to listen. Who the hell's going to listen to that? And when they don't listen to that, what I'm doing is I'm creating a wall between somebody I'm trying to help, and now they have a secret they have to keep from me. And we can't have an honest relationship where I'm trying to help them when they can't tell me stuff that's going on in their life. So I never tell anybody that I ever sponsored to not get in a relationship the first year. In fact, I tell them, listen, if you got to do it, go ahead and do it. Just be honest with them. And they say, what does that mean, Dan? I said, just be honest, just tell them that you want to use them and you got nothing to offer them. And then they'll say, Danny, come on, man, that's not right. Oh, really? How old are you, 37? Still living in your mother's house? You driving Uber once a week? Yeah. You have a lot to offer. You just got sober. Excuse me. So what do you have to offer somebody? So if you're going to get in a relationship, be honest. I have nothing to offer you, I'm just going to use you. And if you find somebody new in the rooms, they'll probably accept that. But a healthy person will never accept that. See, I spent a lifetime looking for Miss Right or Miss Right Now, and never spent 5 minutes trying to make me right until I got sober. So how can I look for somebody to fulfill a need that I haven't even yet established myself? I haven't established this need, but I expect you to fulfill it. How? That's insane. I'm the kind of person that I always needed to be treated special just to feel normal. A lot of alcoholics are like that. And if you reject me, forget about it. Now I love you. Now I'll go out of my way to make you happy. Rejection can turn apathy into love in an unhealthy person. I don't know when it was many, many years ago. I was sharing something with my sponsor, and he said, sounds like you're drunk. I said, what do you mean drunk? I haven't had a drink in years. He said, drunk, Danny, look up the definition. I don't know if you've ever one of the definitions of the word drunk is dominated by emotions. I was drunk. The truth is, we don't know if it's love until the obsession is gone. You know, because when you're in that period, that obsession period, you can't tell if it's love or not. And if two people in a relationship are exactly the same, then one of them is unnecessary. Which brings us to part 2, the differences between men and women. And I got a couple of funny things I wrote down here. Women can fake an orgasm, but men can fake a whole relationship.
Can't wait.
Women need a reason to have sex, men just need a place. Men require sex to respond emotionally, women require emotion to respond sexually. That one's not so funny, it's actually very true. And here's another good one. Men fall in love with what they see. Women fall in love with what they hear. Which is why women will always wear makeup and men will always lie. Okay. Every cell in a man's body is different than a woman's body. Every last cell. We think and process information differently. And it's very important that you really understand the difference between men and women, because you'll never be able to have a healthy relationship if you don't understand this. That's why I'm taking the time to explain the differences. Okay? So, like I said, we think and process information differently. Men are left side of the brain, mostly facts and figures. Women are both sides of the brain, but mostly right side of the brain, which is feelings and emotions. And they just, I think it was the University of Virginia, or one of those universities down that way, they just did a survey. And what they did was they took 20 men, and one at a time they put them in a room by themselves for 30 minutes. And when the man came out, they asked him, what were you thinking about? And the common answers from that survey were food, sex, sports, and nothing. That were the main answers. They did the same thing with women. They took 20 women, they put them one at a time in a room by themselves for 30 minutes, and when the women came out, they asked them, what were you thinking? And the most common answer of those 20 women were, they were reviewing their recent conversations with people. Interesting. Feelings. Men were thinking about things, right? So when you look at the brains of a man and the brains of a woman, they're so different. A man's brain is kind of, the best way to explain a man's brain, it's kind of like, if you were to look inside a man's brain, there's little boxes. And there's a box for everything. Job, house, wife, kids, relatives, you know, and everything's got a little box, right? And if a man is going to talk about something, he goes to that box. He takes that box out, he opens it up, and he discusses only what's in that box. And when he's done, puts it back and he puts the box back. Now a woman's brain don't have boxes. It's got like wires, like a highway or something with wires, and everything is connected. The job, the house, the kids, the car, everything is connected, and it's run by emotion. And when you take an event and combine it with an emotion, it's burned into your memory forever. And that's why women tend to remember everything. The same thing happens for a man every once in a while, but not as often, frankly, because we don't really care. Now here's something you women need to listen to me right now, and you have to hear this. The men have a box in their head, in their brain. In fact, it's one of their favorite boxes, one of our favorite boxes. We call it the nothing box. Because there's nothing in it. And we love this box. And it drives you women crazy that a man could sit there and think about absolutely nothing. Just be... And the woman will come up to him and say, well, what are you thinking about? Nothing. Well, you have to be thinking about something. You just can't be sitting there thinking about nothing. Well, I was, and I was having a good time until you came. You want me to believe that you were sitting there thinking about nothing for the last 15 minutes? Yes. I was thinking about, we love that box. Our nothing box is one of our favorite boxes. So what happens is, if a man comes home and he's quiet, the woman automatically thinks there's something wrong. If a woman comes home and she's quiet, the man don't even notice. Now these things are funny, but they're actually very true. So we mistakenly assume that if our partner loves us, they're going to react and behave in certain ways, the ways we react and behave, and if they don't, then they don't love us. Well, something happens and I would act this way, you're not acting it, so you must not love me. Without the awareness that we are supposed to be different, men and women are at odds with each other. We usually get angry or frustrated because we have forgotten this important truth. We expect the opposite sex to be more like ourselves. We desire them to want and feel the way we do. And that's not going to happen. Check this statistic out. The average woman speaks nearly 25,000 words a day. The man speaks about 12,000 words a day. And us men, we think that just because we're home, that's good enough, right? I'm here, ain't I? That's good enough, right? So when a man comes home after being out all day working or whatever, he's just about used up his quota of words. So he comes home and he just wants to sit down, relax, and think about nothing. You women can't stand that. You don't believe that. You automatically think there's something wrong. So here's the most frequently expressed complaint women have about men is that they don't listen to them. Either a man completely ignores her when she speaks to him, or he listens and for a moment obsesses what's bothering her, then puts on his Mr. Fix-It cap and offers her a solution to make her feel better. And he's confused when she don't appreciate that gesture of love. Because men want to fix it. We want to conquer. Women want to talk. They want to show affection. So the most frequently expressed complaint men have about women is that women are always trying to change them. When a woman loves a man, she feels responsible to assist him in growing, tries to help him improve the way he does things, right? She forms a home improvement committee, and he becomes her primary focus. No matter how much he resists her help, she persists, waiting for an opportunity to help him or tell him what to do. She thinks she's nurturing him, while he feels he's being controlled. To a man, a suggestion means he doesn't know what he's doing. Because the men are about fix it and conquer. And when you suggest something for him, we automatically think, you don't think I know what I'm doing. Now, men value power, competency, efficiency, and achievement. They're always doing things to prove themselves and develop their power and skills. Their sense of self is defined through their ability to achieve results. Fulfillment comes through success and accomplishment. Men are more interested in objects and things rather than people and feelings. Where women fantasize about romance, men fantasize about gadgets and gizmos and powerful technology. Women have different values. They value love, communication, beauty, and relationships. They spend a lot of time supporting, helping, and nurturing one another. Their sense of self is defined through their feelings and the quality of their relationships. They experience fulfillment through sharing and relating. To share their personal feelings is much more important than achieving goals and success. Talking and relating to one another is a source of tremendous fulfillment. So once we understand how different we are, we can now go into a relationship and respect those differences instead of lack of understanding that we always had before. So one of the other things I want to talk about is there's two things, and both men and women are guilty of this, but my experience is more so the women, and that is, one, how they see a relationship is, and if you can picture this, women see relationships through how they vision their father, or their lack of a father. So if you follow me for a minute, let's say there's a woman in front of me, and her man, I'm her dad, and her man is behind me. She sees him through me. She's taken into this relationship the relationship she had with me. She can't escape that. So it's important to understand that. The other thing that we do and make a big mistake doing is we take our experience in life into the next relationship. And that is a huge red flag. That's not good. Let me see how to explain this. If you had a bad relationship, right, and now you're with a guy who's a decent guy, but you have your walls up because you're not going to allow nobody to hurt you anymore. It's very common. Very common. It's common both ways, but more so with women. Women they have their walls up. Their past experience has them being careful. I'm not saying that's a terrible thing. What I am saying is, if that's what you're doing, if you have these things to protect yourself, you can never, ever experience true love. You are not capable of experiencing real love. Because you have your walls up and you're protecting yourself. In order for you to experience real love, you have to put yourself out there completely and allow the person you're dealing with to hurt you. With no nets, no walls, no nothing. Open and honest. And if you do that and that person hurts you, that's not the right person for you. Move on. If you do that and that person doesn't hurt you, you'll be able to experience real love. But as long as you have any walls up that are going to protect yourself from the behavior of the people that you were with before. You'll never be able to experience real love. It may not seem right, but it is. Has anybody got any questions on any
I
stuff
have
we
a
talked about?
question
Yes.
or a comment that men have walls up too,
Oh, absolutely.
more than I got the feeling you were saying.
Can't hear the question.
See, I'll repeat it. She said men have walls up too, and I agree with that. But our walls are a little different. The majority of the women that came out of a bad relationship, almost to every one of them, but the majority of them for sure, are having protection on their next relationship. They're not gonna allow that to happen again. And that's a bad thing because they can't love. If they have these protections up, you can't experience love because you're blocking it. We're gonna talk about what love is when we move on. Go
I have
ahead.
another question or thought is about, what about men's relationship with their mothers? Just like,
She said, what about men's relationship with their mothers? That too has some,
yeah, to talk about that.
That too has some, again, and I don't know that I'm right, but my experience tells me it's more so with women and their dad than men with their mom. But it certainly happens both ways, without a doubt. Because to me, I'm Italian, so when I think of a girlfriend in front of me, I don't want my mom in my mind at all.
No, I was always told that if the man you're dating, always look and see how they treat their mother.
Oh, well.
And how they love their mothers, because that's a good indicator of their ability to love.
Yeah. Well, the Italian people love their mothers. We put them on a
Yeah.
pedestal, yeah. So, that's, there's some truth in that. There's nothing 100% either way, but, like I said, I have 3 daughters and 4 granddaughters. They're all grown up, all of them. And so, I've tried to talk to them about the stuff I'm talking to you about now. And my kids have walls up. My 2 oldest daughters, they got walls up like Fort Knox, and their relationships aren't great, but they're happy. So, anybody else got a question or talk about something or ask? Yes, Maura.
Thanks, Jackie, I love what you're saying. I was just thinking, as you were talking about the walls and, that we tend to be impacted by last relationships. And as alcoholics and addicts, I feel like oftentimes we want instant gratification, like.
Oh, we're getting to that next.
Yes, and so it would seem to me, do you agree that that's why you have to take it slow? Because you're gonna look for red flags instead of jumping into relationships really quickly. It makes much more sense to go slowly.
Well, we're gonna go over that. We're gonna look at how we've dealt with that. That's one of our main topics in the next thing. It's titled instant gratification. So, and we're gonna look at how we've always dealt with it and how a healthy person deals with that.
Okay.
Yeah. So, we're definitely gonna talk about that. But who else? Anybody else wanna add something or talk about something? Don't be shy. Yes.
For me in a relationship, the most important.
Be careful, Terry's over there.
I was gonna say, for me in a relationship, the most important thing that I'm looking for is freedom.
Freedom?
Yeah.
Freedom from?
Control or trying to change me or shit like that.
Freedom from control.
Single.
Good.
It's called single.
Okay. Any rebuttal, Terry?
I don't try to control him. I do assist.
Okay.
I supervise his chores.
Wait a minute, didn't I just read that?
But I'm learning today, which is why I'm here. I so appreciate you doing this. I really, honestly, I don't know what the fuck to say.
She convinced me. She said I should come along to help the cause.
Spirit here,
You've obviously achieved it, cause you're still here.
But You
Well, I was
know-
gonna say, one last, wasn't, you know, just to blow up your entire presentation, but I was 6 weeks sober when Terry and I met, and we moved in together the week we met,
I was sicker than you.
and we've been together for 11 and a half years.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and listen, I know people that have been together 20 and 30 years, that were, one was a couple of years sober, one was a couple of months sober, and I also know a lot more people
Sure.
that it didn't work for them. But there's nothing written in stone, and it's not, everything, you know, it's not like I said it and there's no other scenario. There, you know, God bless you, you're both good people.
I wouldn't wanna live it again.
I know Terry a lot longer than I know you,
Yeah.
and and if she's happy, then I'm happy that you guys are happy. So, yeah, it works rarely, but for every time it works, there's probably a dozen or more times it don't work. So, that's what I'm talking about.
My sponsor always said, if you wanna change a hair on their head, you need to leave them alone, cause somebody's gonna want them just the way they are. And I like that.
Yeah. So,
I was just gonna comment on where you said that women typically put walls up. Well, like, at least for myself, like, I feel like that when it's like to protect myself, because, you know, like people that have been like abused and, you know, like everybody has like some kind of, you know, like when you break up with somebody, there's definitely gonna be, you know, like there's issues, but like for some people that were like really like abused, like those walls are like kind of like instinctual almost, and like it's just like that sometimes like when you take them down and you like make yourself vulnerable, and then like it happens again, is that kind of like where the two people are like not healthy, or like?
well, that's a good question. Being vulnerable is where you need to be. And if you get hurt while you're vulnerable, then you need to leave that situation. You don't need to stick in there. A lot of unhealthy person will, see, we don't know when to get out of a relationship. So unhealthy people will try to make that work. They'll keep making it work. They'll try harder. But if you're vulnerable, that's where you should be. You should be open and vulnerable. And if that person violates that, then you need to leave, because it's not going to get better. It's going to only get worse. You know, it's like a guy that hits a woman. They never stop. It only gets worse. Steve.
So I got 4 daughters, 4 granddaughters, and I've had my share of relationships, and I've learned a lot of lessons. I think one of the principles that have been real beneficial is that, and I heard you say it, just
Joe.
being open and being willing, you can just say being willing to love you. Because if we don't lay ourselves out there, then we never experience it. You know, we cut ourselves short. And I can kind of translate that to, I had a relationship with God. I was a convicted believer and stuff. Things happened, and I severed that relationship, and I blamed God. Well, I could go through life being miserable and never have a relationship with my Creator, or I could look at my own behaviors and I can begin to understand that, you know, God wasn't the cause of my problem, and be willing to trust again. And for me, you know, I mean, I've been at the point where what the fuck's the use, you know, ready to just call it quits. And the book talks about our relationships and how, I mean, most of us have relationship problems. You know, many of us when we get here, and I've always found it interesting, but it's, where the hell else are we gonna go and talk about it, you know? But oftentimes, I mean, coming to Alcoholics Anonymous, we may or may not have the best source of information to improve our relationship. Hopefully, we're getting the sponsors, getting the book, and we're being able to do that. But there's also there are some really, really solid people in Alcoholics Anonymous families. You know, and whatever that have profound, amazing relationships that we can learn from. But we've got to be willing to ask too. It's kind of like,
Yeah.
getting relationships sponsored.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this, like I said earlier, this is a topic that is not spoken about enough in recovery. I mean, this is a very important, what more important topic is there than having a relationship, and we don't talk about it enough.
I know that this was probably more around romantic relationships, but does this apply in other relationships, like friends and?
No, this whole workshop is boyfriend, girlfriend. It's not about relationship with the world and the people in it.
But what I'm asking, I guess, is we have problems in relationships in general, not just in our romantic relationships.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But this here, we're just focusing on boyfriend, girlfriend, and for here. Yeah. Because there's a big difference between a relationship with people in the world and a relationship with a partner or a potential partner. So, yeah. So we're gonna get into some of the things like that Susan just touched on, and some of the things that you just touched on. I don't know your name, but some of the things you just touched on. So here's the thing. If you're hooked up with the world's first-class loser, what's wrong with you that you are, and what's wrong with you that you stay in it? If your relationship sucks, so do you.
That's harsh.
And that brings us to part 3, having a healthy relationship. Now we're gonna get down to the nitty-gritty. You guys wanna take a 5-minute break? Okay, take a 5-minute break. It's 3:10, 5-minute break, we'll start at 3.
10 to 3, it's 10 to 3.
10 to 3, we'll start at 3.
Good job, buddy.